Ladies and gentlemen, Fourth and Trollers, welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And we have got a Week 4 recap for you today. It's going to be a great show. We got some things to talk about, some big performances to boast about, and some letdowns, as we always have on our Tuesday episodes with you. It's going to be a fun time, and everyone take a deep breath. We all made it through Monday Night Football because, oh boy, was that just it felt like Thursday night. I'll just say that. There you go. Wes, how's it going?
Oh, things are fine. You know, I had the best and worst of fantasy during the week. Some of my teams went off, and others I didn't even get 90 points. Just kind of had the up and down. Things are fine. Airplane flying above me. Things are okay.
Just LA stuff, dude.
Tell me about your day. I'm going to close the window.
Yeah, that's cool, dude. Hey, I had a great, Wes, I had a great day. You know, it was a, here, I had a great weekend. You know why? My team did awesome. I scored 157 points. I had A.J. Brown. I had Kyron Williams. I had Puka Nacua. I was freaking on cloud 9, dude. 157 points. And I lost. Here's... I don't know how this always... I'm sure it happens to many people. For the last year and 4 weeks now, this has been my life, Wes. I have an incredible team. Mm-hmm. And I lose. Last season, I was the second highest scoring team in our league, Wes. I didn't make playoffs as the second highest scoring team in our league. We're through to week 5 now. We've just gotten through week 4. I'm 1-3, and I have the most points scored in our league this year. I'm 1-3. You know why? Because Cole Kmet decides to go ahead and have a 27-point week. Cole Kmet decides to do me in. And guess what? You know what else doesn't help me? I'm coming into Monday night. All right. I need 20 points. Between Tyler Lockett and Darren Waller. Tyler Lockett pretty much does his job. He gets me half of that. Could have had more. It is what it is. You know who doesn't help me at all? Darren Waller. You know why? Because Daniel Jones shouldn't play football. That's why. I am fuming about this, dude. I don't know how this always happens to me. I don't know how the last year plus of fantasy football for me has just been this. It's just been this of just, hey, Noah, you've got a great team. You're the third highest scoring team in the league this week. You're the number 1 scoring team in the league this year so far. You're 1-3. You lose. Here, hold this L. You know why? Because you scored 160 plus points last week, and you just had a guy who scored 180 that you were playing against. Oh, yeah, and then you scored 158 points this week, and you just happened to be playing the guy who scored 162 points. Why do computers hate me? Like, why is the random shuffleization of these schedules that they pan out this way? What is going on? Why does this happen this way? Like, I'm at wit's end right now. I'm like, my team is unbelievable, and I'm 1-3. I've scored the most points in the whole league, and I'm 1-3. I don't understand. I don't get what I did wrong to make the fantasy gods angry, and for them to schedule my schedule this way to just. Yeah, dude, you're going to put up buku points here. And, there you go. There's just, it's been a weekend, dude. It's been a weekend.
We got a great show for you.
We got a great
man.
show for you guys today.
We are
Listen.
emotionally charged. Golly. We're so pissed at Daniel Jones. We're not even going to talk about it because it's not surprising anymore, but it's Darren Waller truthers. What a pile of burning tires. The Giants offense is really sacked like 11 times. Anyway, let's get on.
Listen, we got a great show for you guys today. It's going to be a fun time. I hope maybe that was relatable for somebody. Maybe someone knows that they're not alone out there, that this happens to the best of us. We got a great show for you, though. Like we said, we're going to get hyped up and let down. Fluke for real. Got some waiver ads we're going to go over, and then a little bit of a Thursday night football preview because we got a barn burner on Thursday night. It's going to be a fun time. Before we jump into all of that, make sure you're following us on all our social medias below. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. Hey, comment. Let us know if you also scored the most points in your league this week, except for you were playing the person who scored just a few points more than you. Let us know because you're not alone. Like I said,
yep.
It's the price we pay to play this fake football game. We got a great show for you. Let's jump into the news, Wes. There's some things to talk about as we hit the first bye weeks of the season. Let us know what's going on.
Yeah, first bye weeks. These teams are the Chargers, the Browns, the Seahawks, and the Buccaneers. Plan accordingly. Hope you have prepared for your starters to have the replacements ready. Okay. Quick jump back to Thursday night with the Lions at Packers at Lambeau Field. Matt LaFleur stated after the game that Aaron Jones and Christian Watson were both on a pitch count during that game. So those that may have started them in their return and were disappointed, like a lot of us were, there is a bit of an explanation. Hopefully in their next game, they'll be able to roll out with some better stats. Kyler Murray, the first time we're going to mention his name here in the regular season, was eligible to come off of the PUP list on Monday, yesterday, but he is still considered weeks away from being able to play, meaning that Josh Dobbs, who is balling out, is going to continue to be the starter for quite some time. Speaking of quarterbacks balling out, Justin Herbert fractured his finger on his non-throwing hand, but because of the Chargers bye week that we just mentioned, he may not have to miss any games at all. In fact, the team stated that he would have played anyway if they were going to have a game this week. So it feels like he's going to be just okay. He's going to have a splint, some kind of cast of some kind to help make sure everything's going to be okay for the number one quarterback in fantasy football right now. Speaking of quarterbacks, it appears that Kenny Pickett avoided the ACL tear, but it is determined to be a bone bruise, similar to what Travis Kelce had in his knee as well. They don't yet know the extent of his absence, but it could be several games. They say it's not serious, but something to monitor because Mitch Trubisky would be the starter, and that may affect how some of these wide receivers and running back and the whole offense is for the next week or so. Javonte Williams suffered a hip flexor injury, was ruled out for the rest of Sunday's game, but he may not actually miss any games at all. So those that saw what Jaleel McLaughlin did and they want to buy into that waiver wire ad, just know that Javonte may still be there. But of course, if Williams is out, McLaughlin will still play. Samaje Perine is still in that backfield. Pay attention to how that rolls out. Last two here, T. Higgins fractured his rib against the Titans on Sunday. Something to monitor during the week, especially with their 1-3 start to the season. They could just rest some starters, maybe not, with how Joe Burrow is going to continue to push through his injury as well. There's no timeline on how serious it is, but he said he's going to try to get through and play. Consider him questionable for the whole week. Last piece here, something to keep in mind for our next show later this week. Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp are eligible to return to practice this week. And if I'm not mistaken, they have come back to practice, and their head coaches are expecting them to play. Shane Steichen himself said that he has a chance to play. Jonathan Taylor back with the Colts. We'll be talking about them next episode, but that's it for the news this week. Now, per the usual, let's go over some hyped up and let down from week 4.
A lot of players to be hyped up about this week. There were some big, big, big performances. We got to see a couple of them in just in full. Just Christian McCaffrey. What a
Oh man.
I don't know how he moves and plays football the way he does. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
It's beautiful.
And I don't. It's just he is unbelievable. I can't remember if it was first or second touchdown, but one of those touchdowns he had a little like half hurdle over a defender, and it was just like it was just so smooth. Christian McCaffrey, 48.7 fantasy points, his best fantasy performance of his career on Sunday. 48.7 was a career high in fantasy points for him. He's always been that guy. He's always had that kind of ceiling. He always gets a 40-ish point game, at least one every year. He got 48.7, nearly a 50 burger. And hey, that contributed to, as well as Cole Kmet, to my beating that I took this week by 5 there. Christian McCaffrey and Cole Kmet, elite combo to take down me, I guess. Who knows? A couple of Buffalo Bills. Man, Josh Allen was dotting up the Dolphins defense. That was something that was 21 for 25 for 320 yards and 4 touchdowns, 17 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown as well. 44.5 fantasy points for Josh Allen. That dude was on a mission.
He had more total touchdowns than incompletions.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Absurd.
That is wild. I was watching it with some friends, and I look, and they were like, God, the Bills are so good. And I was like, they play angry against Miami. Yeah. Like, I'm surprised that the Dolphins had any kind of offensive yards because they hate Miami. Yeah. And Diggs.
Yeah. Stephon Diggs helped him out to the tune of 36 fantasy points, 6 catches on 7 targets for 120 yards and a hat trick, 3 touchdowns, matched his career high in touchdowns in a single game. I looked at one of my buddies I was watching the game with, and when he had 3 touchdowns and there was still like a quarter and a half left, I looked at him and went, I'm pretty sure he's going for 4. I'm pretty certain they're going to get him a 4th right now, and didn't end up doing it. Hey, Dolphins defense held strong. What a performance from those two up in Buffalo on Sunday. Definitely put on a show, especially if they're on your fantasy team, especially if that stack. That would be ridiculous if you get that stack. AJ Brown, hey, I don't know what happened with that conversation on the sideline again when they were playing up against the Vikings on primetime. But since then, dude, he's been the go-to. He's been the guy. 38.5 fantasy points, 9 catches, 13 targets, 175 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had an unbelievable game. And Wes, your stud for week 4. It was now or never. Yeah. And Justin Fields showed up for fantasy managers. 35.9 fantasy points, 28 for 35 for 335 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. He only had 25 yards rushing. Like, it was like, is this Justin Fields or Peyton Manning? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what's going on? The guy was on fire. He definitely found a rhythm there on Sunday. We'll talk about the Bears here in just a little bit because there's more analysis to do, but definitely a good performance from him. Nico Collins, we saw him pop off in the beginning of the year. Then it was a little bit of Tank Dell. The constant variable here is CJ Stroud because whatever is going on with these Houston Texans pass catchers, it's because of CJ Stroud. Nico Collins, 35.8 fantasy points, 7 catches on 9 targets, 168 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Those Texans look good, dude. The Texans look freaking good. That was a great game for them. And CJ just seems to be, Anthony Richardson's good for fantasy, but CJ Stroud seems to be the best quarterback out of the 3 that went in those top 4 picks. Like he is, and it's not even, I would say, a system thing. Like I wouldn't say he's in any better of a situation than Anthony Richardson or Bryce Young. It's just like CJ Stroud seems to he's got that swagger, dude, and he's wearing it on his sleeve. Like he is excited for the city of Houston to have a football team to be proud of again. And that was showed a lot. He had a really great press conference. I don't know if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It was awesome the way he was kind of just speaking about the Texans organization, the team that he is leading. And Nico Collins looked good. 35.8 fantasy points. That was fantastic. Guy I just mentioned, though, Anthony Richardson, fellow rookie quarterback, 33.6 fantasy points. Dude is fantasy gold. Like he if he's on your team, I think he's a must start. Like he is a must start if you've got him. If he's out there on your waiver wire for some reason, if someone dropped him after he got hurt, whatever happened, go pick him up. Especially if you're like a Joe Burrow owner, something like that. If you're not confident in whoever you've got. Anthony Richardson, 33.6 fantasy points. 11 for 25 was the concern we had with the passing. Was not great, but it was 11 completions for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like nearly 20 yards of completion was kind of ridiculous. Like it's just, that doesn't happen very often. But then again, 10 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown there. He was awesome. He was fantastic for fantasy football.
He's probably going to be the top 15 in the end, the way that you predicted before the preseason, before the season started. At this rate, night. I would almost say I could see him being top 10. Like it truly is. I think he could be a serious. He's 6th in points per game.
Yeah.
So
he missed like a game and a half. So that it'll need to come down the line to see where he ends up. But yeah, he is killing it. He is freaking awesome.
Golly.
Lamar Jackson had a great game. Had a fantastic game for fantasy, a fantastic game for football. 15 for 19, 186 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. And then he had 9 rushes for 27 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, 32.14 fantasy points for Lamar Jackson.
Vintage.
Fantastic to see. Yeah, it was. That's what we hoped we would see coming back out of this. And against a serious Browns defense. Like I know the Browns offense was struggling and that may have just thrown off the whole feel of the team in general at that point, but Browns defense is good, and Lamar Jackson was doing some good stuff against them, and that second Mark Andrews touchdown catch was unbelievable. That was
what an amazing
awesome
throw.
Close out our hyped up with everybody's favorite rookie wide receiver, Puka Nacua. 31.3 fantasy points, bounces back after a bit of a down week in week 3. 9 catches on 10 targets for 163 yards and his first touchdown of the season and game-winning touchdown in overtime. I don't know if anyone saw the post-game in the locker room with him. He got the game ball, and man, he is just awesome to root for. He's so exciting to root for, and definitely going to be some stuff we're going to talk about later in the week when it comes to if/when Cooper Kupp returns, what his role is going to look like. We will be talking about that later in the week, so definitely want to stick around. Make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you can catch that as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for Hyped Up. As always, we need to get a little bit let down. Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes had a bad game. Yeah. That was a bad game for Mahomes. 15.2 fantasy points. Picks up 51 yards on the ground. That's like a third of those points right there for you. Just 203 yards and a touchdown, and then but 2 interceptions. It was a bad game. It was a bad. Sunday Night Football is like a weird game, and we definitely were seeing things we didn't think we'd see. Someone was in the air, or Taylor Swift. I don't know what it was, dude, but it was something about Sunday Night Football at MetLife. Just he didn't look good. Well, I mean, I don't think it's anything to worry about, but better days ahead. But this was just a letdown for Patrick Mahomes, and not what you wanted from him in your lineup.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was week 4 last year. They lost to the Colts. Yeah. And I think he threw multiple interceptions. So even though it's Mahomes and many consider him already the greatest of all time, he's going to have bad games. There's obviously nothing to worry about in the long run. It's just, you're just let down because you would have won if he had played like himself. So better days to come for sure.
Yeah, and same thing with this next guy, Tua Tagovailoa. Obviously, the Dolphins take their first loss of the season up in Buffalo. 28-point loss to the Buffalo Bills. Tough game for Miami. Tua Tagovailoa, just shy of 16 fantasy points. So again, not a terrible game, but just not what you're hoping for, especially when, a game should be that high powered on offense. That you had high expectations for this. You thought you might see a week 1 repeat with Tua and Tyreek, that sort of thing. Wasn't the biggest thing there for the Dolphins offense. You get 2 rushing touchdowns from Devon Achane, and those could have been passing touchdowns for Tua, obviously. So things just kind of turn around there. It just depends on what the offense looks like, and then it looked like they were rushing the ball. So that's what ended up happening there. Tua's wide receiver 1, Tyreek Hill, just 10.2 fantasy points. Again, just a disappointing game from the Dolphins offensively. Some big holes there in the offensive line, and Tua was not having a lot of time to throw that ball. He gets the ball out quick, but even that Bills defense was able to get him on the ground 3 times, and that was 3 times as many as he had been taken down all year. So definitely some things there for Miami to fix, to take care of, stuff like that. But just disappointing and let down games from Tua and Tyreek there. Kirk Cousins. The Vikings get their first win. They've gotten 3 losses, and Kirk Cousins has been balling, and then they get their first win, and Kirk Cousins is terrible for fantasy. It is 13.56 fantasy points, 12 for 19, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a national embarrassment that was all over the internet. It was that 99-yard pick 6 that he threw. God bless his heart, trying to get back there to make the tackle, but he just got walloped and just got trucked onto the ground. So, Kirk, we love you, man. Congratulations on the win. Definitely a letdown for fantasy, though. Keenan Allen, 12.2 fantasy points. Started out good. Started out really hot. He started out 3 for 3, 3 catches for 32 yards and a touchdown. Thought we were going to get another big Keenan game. Just 12.2 points. I would personally let down. Keenan's on my team. Didn't get a win there because of that kind of letdown performance. So, better days to come for sure. And, it's just
no doubt
hyped up and let down. We're just let down. We're not worried, but we are just let down. Same thing here for a couple of Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb, 14.8 points. Not the game you're hoping for. Gets a touchdown with just 4 catches for 36 yards. And then Tony Pollard, 9 points. 11 carries for 47 yards. 3 catches on 3 targets for 13 yards. I believe the Cowboys defense had 2 defensive touchdowns. Again, it was just it felt like week 1 light for this Cowboys offense. Like, it was just like, the defense did a ton of work and this offense didn't need to do a whole lot. And maybe that's a legitimate thing that we need to be worried about for the Cowboys offensive weapons. Like, it truly could be like,
I was just about to say,
in these games that it's going to be kind of a blowout and this defense should kind of dominate. And obviously it's not always perfect to predict. You could have said the same thing about that Cardinals game and they end up losing that game. But there's a legitimate reality that the Cowboys defense is so good that it just limits the Cowboys offensive weapons for fantasy. And that could be the reality of things. I mean, hopefully you didn't lose your week because Tony Pollard only got you 9 points. I mean, you definitely would have hoped he could have gotten you 20 or something points like you did last week. But it's such a funny thing to think about. It's just, hey, this one side of this team is so good that the other team just doesn't actually need to be that good. Like, that's just what it comes down to. So
they don't have good total offensive stats because their defense is by far and large the best in the NFL. I mean, you're never going to bench CeeDee Lamb or Tony Pollard, but it's going to feel like boom or bust because either their defense gets 3 touchdowns or they actually have to compete.
Right.
For once.
Your guess is going to be as good as ours. It's just going to maybe have to play the matchups there. Last couple guys here we got let down by. Raheem Mostert, another guy in that Dolphins game. 5.5 fantasy points from the running back 1 coming into this week. Definitely a letdown. Had a couple fumbles. One of them the offense recovered. Another one the offense didn't. I don't know that Mike McDaniel is that kind of guy that he's going to look at Mostert and go, "Hey, get on the bench because you fumbled." But I think we're seeing that this is going to be more of a split with this backfield with Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. And Achane was the guy for the Dolphins this week in the run game. So he ended up getting that there. I'm still rolling out Mostert. I don't think you can bench him because just of one kind of week like this, but definitely just a little bit of letdown.
Next week.
This we saw two running backs for Seattle run well against the Giants defense on Monday night. So definitely some good opportunities there for the Dolphins backfield and for the Dolphins offense going into next week. Last guy, my stud for week 3, Chris Olave, 1.4 points. And, Olave was great. He was a wide receiver 12 going into the week without even scoring a touchdown. He was fantastic. I don't know how much of that game you watched, Wes. Dude,
Not
Derek
much.
Carr was so bad. Derek Carr was so bad. He threw like oh man, I don't have the stat line, but it was terrible. It was like terrible for the completions and yards that it came out of. This is just a picture of that. Alvin Kamara caught 13 passes in that game on Sunday for 33 receiving yards. That's how poorly that was going. Derek Carr, I know he wanted to tough out that injury, but I don't know if that was the right decision for the Saints to make there. I really think even if they had Jameis Winston under center for that full game, I know he came in and threw a pick on his first pass of the game, and that was kind of it. But even so, I think you could have given them a better chance. I mean, it was just disappointing for the Saints offense, and Baker Mayfield played well against him. So definitely something we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. That is it for Hyped Up and Let Down. And now we are going to jump into Fluke or For Real, because some people we need to break down and talk about here. And the first group of people is the Chicago Bears, because we saw them come alive for a good chunk of that game on Sunday. They were up 28-7. They were humming. Justin Fields, 28 for 35, 335, and 4 touchdowns. DJ Moore, 8 catches, 131 yards and a touchdown, 27 fantasy points. Khalil Herbert, all the Roshan Johnson truthers were like, yeah, Herbert's losing the job. Nope, 18 carries for 103 yards, 4 catches for 19 yards and a touchdown there. He got 22 fantasy points. And Cole Kmet, obviously, like I said, has his best fantasy performance of his career in this game. Fluke or For Real on these Chicago Bears, Wes?
It's really tough for me to totally buy it. I'll be honest. I believed, let me say this. This stat line that you just gave, this is, I think, what fantasy football players believed would happen for the Bears this season. This is why I was so high on DJ Moore, why I was hooked on a feeling on DJ Moore, why I had Justin Fields, I think, as QB7 on the season for me. Khalil Herbert, I wasn't that high on, but we did share a statistic in the offseason of what he did when David Montgomery was out. Cole Kmet was someone you and I were talking about the end of last year as being a potential tight end to draft and start and lock him in, and I still can't buy it yet. Yeah. It doesn't feel real. I'm gonna be honest. This is everything I wanted in a week from the Bears offense. And somehow I still don't know if you can just roll them out. I think you have to look at the schedule. And the schedule is not too bad. I'll share this, and then I want to hear what you're feeling, because you're not even as high as I am, and I'm kind of out. But they still have the Vikings twice. This is for Justin Fields, at least. Still have the Vikings twice, who have allowed the 3rd most points to quarterbacks. They have the Cardinals, who have allowed the 8th, and they have the Chargers, who have allowed the 1st. But they still have the Browns, who have allowed the fewest. And the final game of the season is against the Falcons, and right now they allow the 21st. It feels week to week for me. What are you feeling, man?
Yeah, I think this game on Sunday proved a lot more about how poor the Broncos defense is versus how good this Bears offense is and figured out. I think obviously the Broncos come back and win that game, which was unbelievable. It was an incredible
Yeah.
comeback. But you got 28 points put up on you like early and quick. Like it was like in like 2.5 quarters by the Bears, who hadn't been good. I struggle to believe that this is for real and that they've suddenly figured it out versus, yeah, the Broncos just are really bad. And if you're in need of maybe a quarterback streamer, you just pick up whoever's playing the Broncos. Which is Zach Wilson next week, by the way. Like it's first bye week of the year. Like who's rolling out Zach Wilson?
If Zach Wilson balls out against the Broncos, then you can stream any QB against the Broncos. Yeah. That's an amazing thought.
Yeah.
Stud.
We'll have to
week.
see. We'll have to see what happens here. I'm still going to call Fluke on this Bears offense, and maybe we'll get a picture of it. Maybe we'll get a clearer picture on Thursday night. They play against the Washington Commanders, who just went to overtime with the Eagles. Divisional games are crazy. That was pretty nuts. But
one last thing.
I'm still calling Fluke. Go ahead.
Is it worth keeping Justin Fields and DJ Moore to have them available in case this happens again for any kind of bye weeks and injuries? Or do you take advantage of this week right now and sell high and get someone with a little more trustworthy floor?
It would have to be the right deal. But if someone's willing to buy, if someone's buying in on Fields and they're willing to give like if they're willing to give a Anthony Richardson, or if they're maybe not convinced on Tua after 2 poor games and then 2 good games. If someone's willing to do that sort of deal, I would probably take it. Yeah, I would definitely take Tua. I'd definitely take Richardson there, but I don't know if anyone's willing to do that. So it would just have to be contingent on if you found the right trade partner to move them, which is always the situation. But I think you sit with it for now, because there is on the off chance that it's like, hey, all we need to do is make Chase Claypool feel unwanted in this offense, and then we figured it out. Like maybe that was the case. That's what they're doing there. So, I'll say this: I've got Justin Herbert in a handful of my leagues. In leagues where Justin Fields is on the waiver wire, I have put in a claim for him to fill in on this bye week. Okay. I think Fields could be okay on Thursday night, and he could give us a little a piece of this pie again. So we'll have to see. It's gonna be interesting. We'll break down Thursday night in just a little bit, but a lot of things to look at and talk about.
Asking for a friend. I am friend. Appreciate it.
Hi, friend. There you go.
Yeah,
you're welcome. We talked about him already. I just mentioned his quarterback just a little bit ago. Nico Collins, though, 35.8 fantasy points. I'm in. I'm calling for real here. I'm calling for real on Nico. We already called for real on Tank. I think Tank had a down week. I still think, as what I said earlier, when your quarterback is playing the way CJ Stroud is, I think it comes to a point where you can't be lukewarm about it. Like, CJ Stroud looks legit. Therefore, CJ Stroud's wide receivers are going to be legit in my eyes. That's just, that's how that plays out. You look at a lot of the offenses here, and that's how that goes. I think that this is legitimate with Nico Collins. I think this is a ceiling game, but I think this is a legit play every week. Nico Collins should be in your lineup if you have him on your team.
Feels like it's a boom or bust for Nico and Tank, and it feels like it's going to alternate, and some weeks will be Nico's and some weeks will be Tank's, but either way, they were on the waiver, and at the most they were drafted at the very end of fantasy lineups, and fantasy drafts, so there'll be flex options at most, which is great for your team. So keep pulling them out, see what happens. Maybe they'll continue to get these 30-point games, but Texans offense. What in the
Dude,
world?
I can't wait.
Their
We just
passing
said,
offense is so good.
yeah, we just said, one of the weeks it'll be Tank and one of the weeks it'll be Nico. And dude, I can't wait for the week that is both of them. And CJ just throws for 450 and 5. And we're just like, this dude is so good. Like I'm such a big. I might buy a jersey, dude. I'm such a big CJ Stroud fan. It's so awesome to just see him doing so well. I mean, just his journey that he went on, dude. Like the week leading up to the draft, everyone was like, yeah, they might not even take a quarterback. They might draft Levis second, like all this stuff, and just all the stuff he went through.
Preseason, don't forget, was pretty bad.
Yeah. Dude, he shows up like freaking good, dude. That was the Steelers defense. TJ Watt couldn't even rattle that dude. Like, what are we doing here? Put some respect on CJ Stroud. He's freaking great. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. My goodness. Baker Mayfield, hey, 28.94 fantasy points, 25 for 32 for 246 and 3 touchdowns. And he played most of the game without Mike Evans. He did throw an interception, but Baker looks like a dude, I can't believe it. Baker looks like a decent fantasy option for if streaming. Maybe he's matchup dependent. Maybe you're a Burrow owner and you're like, yeah, I'm done. I can't figure this out anymore. Like, I'm not willing to roll these dice. Baker looks good. And the Saints defense is a good team. Like, that's a good defense.
Yeah.
And he just put 250 and 3 on him. And he didn't have Mike Evans. Like, it's freaking... I think it's for real, dude. I was thinking back on my mark my words that I made, and I quickly realized I was like, oh man, Mike Evans is like a top 10 receiver right now, and I might have to dye my hair blonde. And then I remembered that it was both. I know, that was what I forgot about. I was going, oh man, I think I'm going to dye my hair. And then I remembered. I went back and found the clip, and I was like, okay, wait, it was two top 20. But hey, when Mike Evans went out, Chris Godwin showed that he still got something in him. He had over 100 receiving yards. Yeah. He was able to be a top guy. I mean, maybe that's going to show Baker that he can go to both of them. He can funnel targets in those directions. And who knows? Maybe I will be blonde by the end of the year. We'll see what happens.
That'd be amazing. Only thing I'll add to it is, look, you've got Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson, Geno Smith on a bye, and obviously Baker's on a bye as well. But there are going to be more quarterbacks of the Justin Herbert caliber. And now Geno hasn't done nearly as well as we predicted he might have been. Both had him as a QB10. But we're going to get into bye weeks and injuries coming up. And Baker is a reliable option. I feel like you can depend on him to get 20 points. And that's not too bad in the fantasy world. Yeah. For real.
I think it's for real as well. Hey, finally had our a guy that we were a little bit out on show up on Sunday. 27.9 fantasy points for Josh Jacobs, his first game of over 12 fantasy points. 17 carries for 58 yards and a touchdown. Not the most efficient on the ground, but 8 catches for 81 yards. This is something we need to talk about here. Fluke or for real, though, Wes?
I'm going to say fluke. I'm going to say Aiden O'Connell really helps out the fantasy offense for the Raiders. But when Jimmy G's back, I have a bad feeling it's going to nowhere
but to Devontae Adams and Kobe Myers and Jimmy Garoppolo's back.
Yeah.
It's just how it goes, dude.
Golly. I mean, and 17 carries is such a juicy stat for running backs. It's something that you want to buy into. You love that. But that's such a bad yard per carry. 58 yards off of 17 carries. And yes, he got the touchdown, but like the ball was not moving because of him. The passing game was what succeeded. And if he's not involved in the passing game, then you're not getting 15 points or more than 15 points. So I'm calling fluke. I'm calling fluke on Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if this is his best game of the year. I do think that this could be a momentum builder. And maybe Josh McDaniels is going, hey, maybe we need to just make sure we design some more plays maybe in the receiving game. You know, he helped us out there. Whatever. I do think better days are ahead for Josh Jacobs than that 12-point, 10-point floor. Like, I do think he's got some 15, some 20-point games here and there in him, but I won't be surprised if this is his best game of the season. So I'm gonna call Fluke on a 28-point game, but I do think there are better days ahead for Josh Jacobs. I think he's talented. I just think he's not. We're seeing that he's not getting all the opportunities he got last year, and
No.
that's why you and I were out over 400 opportunities last year. I mean, that is why you and I were out on him, Wes. Is just due to it's not going to happen again. So Josh Jacobs, Fluke on this 28-point game, and in our eyes, a fourth and troll fantasy. Michael Wilson, third round wide receiver, rookie wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals, 26.6 fantasy points, 7 targets, 100% catch rate with 7 catches for 76 yards and 2 touchdowns. Fluke or for real, Wes?
I'm going to call Fluke, but I'm going to say it's a glass half full kind of fluke. Like, okay, I won't start you next week, and I won't put a waiver claim in for him, but I will pick him up on Wednesday morning, perhaps, without having to spend my waiver wire priority or some fab, and see if it happens again. But I mean, Josh Dobbs, very similar to CJ Stroud. He's wheeling and dealing, and maybe some weeks it's Michael Wilson, and maybe it's Marquise Brown, and maybe it's James Conner's the favorite passing target. But I mean, it can be anybody, and Cardinals are a surprise as well. Texas the Cardinals, Super Bowl bound. Super Bowl matchup preview.
Yeah, there you go. I had someone at work to me today go, "Hey, did you like that NFC Championship preview we got this weekend?" And I was like, "Sorry, what?" He was like, "Cardinals Niners, baby." I was like, "Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go. Yeah, NFC Championship bound right there.
Yeah,
you got it.
Lock it in."
I agree with what you're saying here. I think this says more about Josh Dobbs and these Arizona Cardinals receiving options than it does specifically about Michael Wilson. Wes, you and I were in love with Hollywood Brown at the start of the offseason. And as we got closer, we went, oh, this Cardinals offense is going to be bad. I don't feel good about drafting Marquise Brown anymore. And I feel good about rolling Marquise Brown out as a flex in my lineup right now. He's 2 straight weeks of 15 plus fantasy points. Obviously, Michael Wilson has a big game. This Cardinals offense is better than we thought it was going to be. And it's exciting to see. Jonathan Gann is a lot of fun to rip on, dude, but like he's running an okay team right now. And that's pretty cool to see. So good for them. Yeah, good for them. They're making people sweat, excuse me. Isaiah Pacheco, 24.8 fantasy points, 20 carries. I don't know if that has ever happened for a Kansas City Chiefs running back since Patrick Mahomes has been in the league, but 20 carries for Isaiah Pacheco. Yeah, 20 carries for Isaiah Pacheco, 24.8 fantasy points. Goes for 115 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches for 43 yards. Fluke or for real?
I'm very tempted to say Fluke. I'm very tempted to say it's a fluke, but we knew he was going to be the lead back for Kansas City going into the year. He was drafted around the 5th round, so people had this kind of an expectation in some way. And I also think this stat line is attributed to Patrick Mahomes having a rough outing and they needed to do something else to get down the field, but I won't call it a fluke. I don't think this will happen too many more times where he gets over 20 points, but Isaiah Pacheco is definitely the top dog in the backfield. So I think we get this, and let's just hope that you slot him in in the right weeks. That's my take on Pacheco's performance.
Yeah, you nailed it. There you go. That's exactly what I was thinking there with Isaiah Pacheco. Alvin Kamara, 21.4 fantasy points, 11 carries for 51 yards, nearly 5 yards a carry there. 13 catches on 14 targets for 33 yards there. So the PPR value was booming on Sunday. 21.4 for Alvin Kamara, fluker for real in his first game back.
What an absolute joke stat line.
Right?
I mean, Comedy Central presents Alvin Kamara's PPR game. I'm not even kidding. This makes me upset that PPR exists.
Yeah.
What Kamara did on Sunday makes me bothered that the PPR format is even a thing, because without that, he's got 8 points.
Yeah.
What a complete sham. I mean, I'm so bothered by this. I'm calling Fluke out of complete spite. 14 targets. This is so dumb. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
No. And it's not just because I called him a dud, because by the way, like we woke up at 6:30 a.m. our time to watch the London game. And just, oh my gosh. And it's
Dude,
just
we're
like
flip-flopping back and forth.
Yeah,
just
like,
like,
no, Derek Carr is going to start. He's going to defy all odds. And then it's like, oh, no, that's impossible. Jameis Winston's the starter. Oh, no. No, Derek Carr is the starter. And I've got Jameis Winston in a lineup because he didn't want to roll out Burrow. And I was like, oh, I got to sit Winston. Oh, and I can put it back in. Oh, I got to sit him again. I was so mad. And then Kamara does this hot garbage. And I'm so Fluke. Cut him, drop him. Don't drop him. But I hate this stat line.
I can see a 21-point game for Alvin Kamara happening. I would say again, maybe frequently this year. I think he's going to be good. I mean, he was running efficiently on a good Bucs run defense. But it's never going to happen this way again. Like, it's you think 21.4, oh, nice. You got maybe 100 yards and a touchdown for some catches. Nope, just 13 catches for 33 yards. There you go. That's just how that goes.
That's 2.5 yards a catch.
It's ridiculous. It's so bad.
What is going on?
A couple of backup running backs here to close it out. Jaleel McLaughlin, 19.4 fantasy points. I'm going to say Fluke. I think it was just a product of Javonte Williams being out.
And Bears defense is not good.
Yeah. A lot of people in the fantasy community were really high on Javonte this week as a really good start. Obviously, we see the running back who gets work against the Bears. Obviously does well. So that's pretty fluky in my eyes. I will say, if you're a Samaje Perine owner, you're not feeling great about the involvement that Jaleel McLaughlin has in the offense, because you think that if Javonte goes out, it's going to be Perine all day, and it wasn't. So
yeah, I'm
considering, because I have Perine in a few leagues, I'm considering maybe swapping out Broncos running back here if he's on the waiver wire for me. That's just a random thought I'm having here and voicing out loud for you guys.
That. Last one on 4th and Troll.
All the insight. Last one here. Jaylen Warren, 11.5 points, 8 carries for 29 yards, 6 catches on 6 targets for 26 yards. Is this the new RB1 for the Steelers?
So I looked at snap count, 49% and 49%. They each had nearly half of the total offensive snaps. And you know what it feels like for me? It just feels like the Steelers are not a good rushing team. That's kind of what I learned. And yeah, Warren is, productive and 29 yards of 8 carries. That's not terrible. And I like the PPR involvement. 6 catches off of 6 targets, 26 yards. He managed to get some kind of relevancy. But I mean, Najee got around 12 points in fantasy as well. So it's not like he stole what Najee did or vice versa. Right. It's too tough to tell, but what I'll say, because I need to give an answer on Fluke for real. What I'll say is for real enough to stash on your bench for late in the season. And also in case you need to drop someone, in case another Devon Achane shows up in the NFL next couple of weeks. I don't mind dropping Warren. I don't want to, but it might be RB1. Imagine that. You and I have Najee Harris as a top 10 running back going into the season, and then by the end of this season, he's not even listed as the starter.
Yeah.
What happened?
He might get traded towards the deadline. I don't even know. This just feels so off. Feels so different. Yeah. I don't know. It's just not what we hoped for. We're jumping to the bad side of Fluke for real quick before we just get into the last little bits of the show here. The Bengals, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase gets 14.3 points because of PPR and just getting kind of the short yardage kind of stuff that was going on. He wasn't excited after the game. I don't know if you saw that quote.
No, I did see that.
They said, what's going on? Were you just not getting open? And he said, I'm open. I'm always freaking open. Yeah, that's how that went. He was not afraid to. And then he apologized. He said, excuse my profanity. Anyways, that is just 14.3. I mean, I think just, and then 4.7 for Joe Burrow, 20 for 30, 165 yards, no touchdowns. They have 3 offensive touchdowns on the year as a team.
Oh,
3 offensive touchdowns in 4 games. Like, what's going on? What is happening? This is for real until proven otherwise.
yeah.
Like, Joe Burrow shouldn't be started. Jared, good on you for dropping him. Like, my goodness, what the heck?
I want everyone watching to contemplate this and leave it in the comments whether you should just bench Joe Burrow, because it's obviously for real. No one's gonna roll him out. But let's have a conversation here whether you should bench Joe Burrow or if we actually need to drop him. Before you answer, I'm going to read some stats just to show how bad Joe Burrow is, because unequivocally, Joe Burrow this season is the worst quarterback in the NFL. Statistically, he is the worst, okay? Obviously, in fantasy, he's averaging less than 8 points a game. Remember, there are 32 teams in the NFL. He is 34th in quarterback rating. 34th. He's 32nd in completion percentage. He is 33rd in total net passing yards. He is 34th in yards per attempt. He's tied for last in total passing touchdowns, and he's 34th in passing touchdown percentage. The only categories that he's not 32nd or worse is passing yards, 26th, longest passing play, 27th, and interceptions, tied for 13th, and total completions, tied for 15th. And as you said it too, the Bengals are 32nd. They're the worst offense in the NFL. Bench or drop Joe Burrow?
If you bench him, okay, I'll say bench. But I need like 3 good games in a row out of Joe Burrow on my bench to feel good about putting him back into my starting lineup. So am I holding Joe Burrow through potentially the next 4 weeks of waiver wire ads? I don't think so. Yeah. You can drop Joe Burrow. Like, this is bad. This is really bad. And this is not what we thought we were signing up for this year at all. We had Jamar Chase being you had him as your number 1 receiver, Wes. I had him in top 3, top 4 or something like that. But it was just like, what are we missing here? Like, what's going on? Maybe it's the calf. The O-line looks bad. Maybe it's the lack of a run game. Maybe it's freaking mind games because he got paid a freaking boatload of money this year. Maybe. I don't know what it is, but this Bengals team is bad. This Bengals, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not making the playoffs. Let alone I had him being in the Super Bowl. I had him as my Super Bowl team for the AFC this year. I had a Niners Bengals Super Bowl. Maybe I'm halfway right on that, but this is a bad football team. I don't understand what happened. I
have no idea.
Maybe it's the O-line. Maybe it's this injury. I don't know. But this is not good. This is not good. Joe Burrow can be dropped. Jamar Chase, I think you, even through the poor play of Joe Burrow, he's still, last week, he had a really solid game. This week, he gets 14.3. Jamar Chase is still a lineup lock in my eyes because I think he's too talented to be out of your lineup.
Fair.
But you have to very much temper your expectations for what you were hoping for this year out of Jamar Chase when you potentially took him 101. He was going 101 in leagues. This team looks bad.
I feel so good, and my apologies to the troller that I traded Jamar Chase to in our Trollers League and got Tyreek Hill as my replacement. And I told a friend of mine he has Jamar Chase in a league that I'm in, and he was asking me, what do I do? And I'll just share this and we'll move on after. I said it's probably best to try to trade Jamar Chase. And I shared that I was able to. It was after week 2 I traded and got Tyreek Hill. So it wasn't like I just did this like yesterday or something. But are you going to make playoffs with Jamar Chase on your team? I don't know. I don't know at this rate. Because if you want to hold out for Joe Burrow to finally go on IR and heal from his calf injury and finally kick into gear well enough for you to succeed in the fantasy postseason, I don't think you'll even make playoffs with Jamar Chase. So try to seek a trade, see what happens, but people are buying out. And here on 4th and Troll, friggin' Joe Burrow, you can drop him.
Friggin' Joe Burrow. Listen, that's a good segue here because I'm going to ask, I'm going to list a couple names here, just rapid fire off real quick, because if we're going to try and trade Jamar Chase, you got to try and get some sort of value back for him. Would you trade Jamar Chase for Jalen Waddle, Wes?
Am I receiving Jamar Chase or am I receiving the other player?
You would be sending away Chase in every one of these names I'm going to list off here. Would you trade away Jamar Chase for Jalen Waddle? Straight up.
Plus straight up? No.
So you need something a little more there. Okay, that's something.
I want the wide receiver one.
Sure. Would you trade Jamar Chase for Calvin Ridley?
Calvin Ridley's not done that great.
It's tough.
But I believe the Jaguars will turn it around because we saw them do it last year. Okay, I'll think about that one.
Okay.
Would you trade
Jamar Chase for Jacoby Myers and a piece? Jacoby Myers and a flex piece for Jamar Chase?
I don't think so. I don't think Jacoby Myers
I would do that
enough.
deal.
You would do that deal?
I would do that deal, and I might send that deal out tomorrow potentially. I think Jacoby. That we made a joke about it, but when Jimmy Garoppolo was playing quarterback for the Raiders, the targets go 1 to 2 places. It goes to Devontae Adams or it goes to Jacoby Myers. It doesn't go to Josh Jacobs. It doesn't go to Austin Hooper. It doesn't go to Michael Mayer. It doesn't go to Hunter Renfrow. It doesn't go to anybody else. Jacoby Myers has seen 22 targets in 2 games with Jimmy Garoppolo. 11 targets a game with Jimmy Garoppolo right now. 11 targets a game. I'm like, dope. Count me in. I think Jacoby Myers in a piece I would do for Jamar Chase. Let me do one more here. Let's do one more. Would you trade? Yeah, here. This is a good one. Would you trade Jamar Chase straight up for Nico Collins?
That is my favorite. That is my favorite. What a hilarious scenario.
Right.
That's where we're at in this point where I would say, yeah.
I think I would too. You have to
erase the draft pick. You have to just at this point just forget what pick you took, Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
And you just have to say, I need the better player because nobody can trade for Puka Nacua right now. He is untouchable. He is undroppable. I'm sure he's locked in by some fantasy leagues that you can't drop Puka because they don't want you to make a mistake. Puka is second in receiving yards. If anyone after week 1 would be like, oh, I'll give you Jamar Chase for Puka Nacua, everyone would be like, who is the idiot that traded away Jamar Chase? Right now, it's very likely that I would trade Jamar Chase to acquire Nico Collins.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, there's some context for you guys. If you're a Jamar Chase owner, maybe send out some of those deals. See if you would do that there. And it's definitely something to look at. Fly through here with me. We're going to do a little rapid fire. Jalen Waddle, 8.6 points. He's yet to score 13 plus fantasy points fluke for real on this guy because this is a guy we both had top 10. And it's not been what we hoped for. It's I don't know. What do we think?
It's still a fluke because he's boom or bust, and I anticipate that against the Giants, he's going to get in the end zone. He's going to have a fantastic day. But it is surprisingly clear that Tyreek Hill is the favorite target. I thought there would still be some kind of Alabama connection between Tua and Waddle, but wow, does Tua love hitting Tyreek Hill? So
yeah.
We're going to have some more down weeks like this. That part is for real. But as far as like, is he not a good fantasy player? Should you trade him away? No, that's a fluke. He's still going to he'll have a 20-point game very soon. I feel confident in Waddle still.
Yeah, I agree. Jordan Addison, 0 points, just 1 target. Bad day for Kirk Cousins. We liked the matchup against Carolina. We thought it was a fun one. We thought we'd get back on track with Jordan Addison and scoring his deep touchdowns that he did in the first 2 weeks. We did not get there. We only saw 1 target, 0 points. This is fluky for me. It's interesting that they still are involving KJ Osborne, it feels like, more than they should when Jordan Addison is on this team.
Yeah.
But this is a fluke in my eyes. I mean, I think there are going to be plenty of better days ahead for Jordan Addison.
I'm so sorry. We did this live on our last episode between Alvin Kamara or Jordan Addison, who you should start. And I hope you in time switched it, knowing that Derek Carr started. But
I did.
I mean, you did. Okay,
I did get Alvin Kamara back in there. I still lost on the week, but it was definitely a closer game than it would have been if I had Addison in there. It was. I flipped it back and forth a couple times actually. After we recorded the last episode, Wes, I was like, man, what do I do here? And yeah, it was, we still got the points from Kamara, but Jordan
Fluke, Addison will be fine.
Fluke. Yeah, he'll be all right. Deebo Samuel, 0.6 fantasy points, 0 targets for Deebo Samuel on Sunday. 3 carries for 6 yards. This is for real. And all the options are on the field for Brock Purdy. Brandon Ayuk's the dude. Brandon Ayuk is getting the receptions.
Yes.
George Kittle wasn't even really involved. It was Brandon Ayuk and it was Christian McCaffrey. Like it is, I think those are the 2 most reliable guys in this offense. Just as we outlined before the season started, those were the 2 guys in the offense that we wanted in sync right there. Crushed it.
Deebo did well the previous 2 weeks because Ayuk was hurt and out. Look at us. When Ayuk is in, Deebo does nothing.
Yeah.
This is for real.
This is for real. Yeah. Calvin Ridley, 11.6 points, just 2 catches for 38 yards and a touchdown. I think we all got week 1, dude. I don't know what's going on, but it was like, hey, Christian Kirk, you could drop him. He's not involved. And then the last 3 weeks, it's been like, Christian Kirk is Trevor Lawrence's favorite target. This is kind of ridiculous. What's going on here? Calvin Ridley, it's a little disappointing. Man, I am glad I didn't do this, but I was considering trying to sell Puka before Cooper Kupp got back. And I was considering sending an offer of Puka Nacua for Calvin Ridley straight up. And
oh my!
I'm glad I didn't. Yeah,
thank you.
I was gonna buy the dip on Calvin Ridley, but it's just if he doesn't score a touchdown here, it's like another 4-point game. Like this is just disappointing for Calvin Ridley.
Yeah. Something will change eventually. That's my take, but
yeah,
for now, he's barely a flex option.
Yeah, it's tough for sure. Dallas Goedert has yet to score 10 points in fantasy football this year, just 4.5 points. This is disappointing too. Eagles offense felt like it was swinging and it was doing well. It was it looked like their best game offensively after their previous best game was the Monday night game against Tampa. Philly looked good. Offense looked like it was humming, and Dallas Goedert wasn't involved. It's just 4 targets. I mean, maybe it's the scheme. Maybe it's Shane Steichen not being there anymore, but Dallas Goedert's been disappointing, and there might be some better streaming options out there for Dallas Goedert. I mean, I think you probably have to play him just because it's Dallas Goedert and it's the Eagles offense, but it's been disappointing.
He's not
for sure.
getting 1,000 yards like he said he would.
No, he's not.
Way.
Yeah, no way.
No way at all. It's also, I think, the involvement of DeAndre Swift and his success too.
Yeah, they've been running the ball really well.
For real.
This one really good.
Real.
Yeah. Ramondre Stevenson, 6 points in a tough matchup against Dallas. I'm still calling Fluke on this, and I think he's going to have another.
Yes,
I think he's
thank
having
you.
another bad game next week. I don't remember who he's playing. I need to double check this. Hang on, because I heard somebody say this today. Yeah, he's got a tough matchup next week against New Orleans, and then that's when you go trade for him, because after that it's like Vegas, Buffalo, Miami, Washington, and Indianapolis, and then a bye week. So it's like, hey. Buy
Wow.
the dip after next week when it's probably going to be another bad game. I have Ramondre. I'm not starting him next week. But things are going to be okay. I know that there was reports of Ezekiel Elliott was going to get starting reps for the Patriots on Sunday, and he got like 6 carries. It's still Ramondre's job.
Yeah.
He still has everything there. It was just a hard matchup. So that's a fluke in my eyes. And then Jacoby Myers. Last guy here, 5.3 fantasy points. I'm saying fluke. I'm riding with Jacoby, dude. When Jimmy G is the quarterback, I mean, we already said it a few times, but Jimmy G is the quarterback. Jacoby Myers gets targets. And even though Devontae Adams is on this team, Jacoby Myers is still making an impact. He's still doing well for fantasy. I had Jacoby Myers in my lineup. And then when it was ruled that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't going to play, that was when I put Zay Flowers in. Zay Flowers does a few points better than Jacoby Myers does, but I was ready to go Jacoby Myers over Zay Flowers this week. So that's where I'm at with Jacoby Myers. This is a fluke.
Garoppolo with Myers is a great connection. And yes, Adams is still going to be heavily involved, but do not think week 1 was us getting got like maybe Calvin Ridley did. Yeah. That's a fluke. Myers will be good, and I saw people dropping him in some of the leagues that I was in, so
Yeah,
he might even be available still.
He's worth grabbing for sure if he's out there. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to jump into a waiver wire and then do a quick Thursday Night Football preview. Wes, who is the top waiver ad for you this week? I think we got a quarterback special here on 4th Control Fantasy this week.
Oh, we got a 4th and Troll double down on some quarterbacks. And look, we've mentioned him earlier in the episode, and we love this guy, and he is balling out. And it is, in my opinion, your last opportunity to get CJ Stroud off the waiver wire. He is
100%.
So good, and not just on the field, but in fantasy as well. He is, oh my gosh. I cannot believe how he is impressive. I cannot believe how well CJ Stroud is rolling out week after week after week. And it's been 3 straight weeks. This week 1 didn't look that great. But since week 2, Dak Prescott has never done better on a week finish than CJ Stroud. Neither has Brock Purdy, and neither has Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has not done better than CJ Stroud in a single week since week 2. CJ Stroud is 4th in passing yards. Rookie CJ Stroud, 4th in passing yards. He's on pace for over 5,000 passing yards. And no, he won't do that, but he is playing so good. The most impressive thing, he's thrown 6 touchdowns since week 2. He threw 0 in week 1. He's on pace for over 30 touchdowns, but he has, as you can see on Noah's screen, 0 interceptions. That is so uncharacteristic of rookies. Rookies are notorious for double-digit interceptions. In fact, it's common for them to throw 15 interceptions. 0. 0 on the season. And last piece here. Week 2, he put up a wide receiver 5 on the week. Week 3, he put up the wide receiver 7. And last week with Nico Collins, he put up the wide receiver 3. He is wheeling and dealing. And we're at the point where we are finally on bye weeks. So go get CJ Stroud, not just for bye weeks. But we got some quarterbacks that may not be producing as well as CJ Stroud. In fact, I believe he's quarterback 10 on the season. Go get him before it's too late.
Yeah, you ate. No notes. CJ Stroud is that dude, and you are absolutely right. This is the last time that you can get him on the waiver wire. He will be heavily rostered after this week. So make sure you are grabbing him if you're in a situation where it's a bye week or you just need another quarterback. CJ Stroud is that guy. If you cannot get CJ Stroud, if he is taken, here's my top waiver out of the week, and it's Josh Dobbs. Dude is a baller. He's killing it. Josh Dobbs, here's a little tidbit you may not realize. Josh Dobbs has 40-plus rushing yards in each of his last 3 games. Dude is using his legs, and James Conner owners, cover your ears, but like, he's running the ball well. Like, dude looks good running the football, and he looks good throwing the ball as well. Listen, he's got 19-plus fantasy points in each of his last 3 games, and he's got 27-plus fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games. Josh Dobbs is out there on your waiver wire, and you're sitting there contemplating Joe Burrow for another week. That is a mistake, my friend. You need to make sure you go grab Josh Dobbs. He is available. He is one of my top priorities for the leagues I have Justin Herbert in this week. Josh Dobbs gets the Bengals. Hey, maybe the Bengals pull something out, but Josh Dobbs should have a good week this week against the Bengals. And I'm excited. I think Josh Dobbs is really good. And I do think Kyler gets the job back when he comes back, but I don't think that's for at least another month. So I think you're going to get 4 solid weeks out of Josh Dobbs before we even think about Kyler Murray again. Josh Dobbs is that dude. And yeah, Josh Dobbs, top waiver ad. Book it.
He's flying under the radar a little bit too much in fantasy because I don't think people are paying much attention to the Cardinals offense because they're not putting up these crazy stats and they're not winning games. They have won, surprisingly, against the Cowboys, but he's under the radar, and he may not even be anyone that people actually put a waiver claim in for. I wouldn't necessarily risk not submitting a waiver request and then picking up in the morning, but the emphasis for me is he is playing so well, and it is no joke what he's doing in fantasy. And I like this order here. If you can't get CJ Stroud, go get Josh Dobbs. He's going to be such a good fill-in for Justin Herbert or Geno Smith or Baker or Deshaun Watson. And then for the week after that, too, I don't remember when the Cardinals bye week is, but he's such a good backup. He's a potential starter for some people. Dobbs and Strouds coming to you this fall.
There you go. Yeah, on TBS. Nailed it. Thursday Night Football. We're going to jump into it real quick here. We got a barn burner coming between the Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders. Must starts, risky starts, and don't starts. Must start for Thursday Night Football? Nobody. Don't start anyone in this game. Please. Just don't get cute. Don't think about it. Don't do it at all. Risky start. Nobody. Why are you still thinking about it? Don't be, maybe I do. No, don't do that. Don't start everyone. It's that simple, guys. No one should even be watching this game on Thursday night because you shouldn't have any fantasy implications. There you go. It's as simple as that. It's any notes, Wes? Or are we?
No. No. Thursday night is cursed by Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's a disaster.
Spooky season. Just in time for Halloween.
Oh,
there
it's
you go.
Gonna be terrifying. Yeah,
it's going to be horrible. That's it. That's all for Thursday Night Football, and that's all for the episode. Thank you guys for hanging out with us and having a fun time. Let us know what you're doing with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Do you believe in Justin Fields? We'll see you on Thursday night, maybe. It's going to be a fun time. Let us know in the comments. Make sure you make Teddy the Troll smile by hitting that subscribe button, ringing that bell, leaving us a like. Be sure to check us out on all our social medias, which are on the screen. And special announcement real quick. We're going to be releasing our next episode on Saturday this week. So join us a day later, not our Friday episode, but we're going to get you an episode on Saturday for a Thursday Night Football recap and our studs and duds for Week 5. I'm Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been 4th and Troll Fantasy. 4th and Troll Fantasy is a production of FQ Media and Selby Artistic Workshop.